everybody, and welcome to the Tony Tompkins Show, the place in which you get most of the information and occasionally a few facts. But we're here to talk about something very important today. We're going to talk about the Teals and whether or not the Teals are likely to form their own party. And to discuss this with me, I have with me Nathan Ogilvie, which I'll introduce you into just a second. But before I do, I just want to welcome you all to my show. So here we go. Tony Tompkins Show. Thanks everybody for being with me. Really do enjoy it. And I enjoy the opportunity to have a conversation with you about the things that matter to you and to me. So I've got a few people online at the moment. I do have a poll, which is, should the Teals and Independents form a new political party? We have a split debate right at the moment. I'd like you to indicate in the comment section as to why that you have voted the way that you have. And I've got at the moment 73% say yes, 27% say no. We have 12 votes. They're all rolling in fast. Let them keep coming. It's pretty exciting just to see what you do think about all of this. And it will be a conversation that we will continue on as I interview Nathan to you in just a moment. But I do need to say thank you very much, Sandra, for the $10. I really appreciate that to kick the things off with. It's fabulous. Thank you very much. Hello to you all. Looking forward to another interesting conversation. Well, I'll tell you what, Sandra, we'll try to make it as interesting as we can. Sandra sent me a magnificent piece the other day on the influence of the CIA and the intelligence services around the world and how they impact Australia. A fascinating read, which I hope to be able to discuss with everybody at a later date. Sandra, so I really do appreciate that. It was absolutely fabulous. And of course, the person that we want to bring on, the man of the moment, the man that has got all the answers, the person who is able to provide you with in-depth take on what's happening in politics. The only person in Australia who can actually resonate with the rest of the progressives here in this country. And I'll introduce you to him right now, Nathan Ogilvie. Nathan, good to see you, buddy.
Hello, Tony. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me on.
Did you enjoy my introduction? I thought it was pretty good.
I love the new intro video.
Thank you very much.
The TTS, the Tony Tompkins Show. I'm happy to be a part of it.
I'm glad that you are, and I hope, I don't know whether I punched the right buttons, but I don't know whether it's going to your channel just yet, but I hope
it looks like it's not, but that's okay. Let's not worry about that.
Damn.
It's all going to yours.
I don't know what I'm doing there. I'll sort that out next time Nathan and I do a post, because this is important.
Yeah, look, on my thing, it says it's going to me. Mine says I'm streaming, but I can't see it, so that's okay. It's better.
All right.
Everyone gives Tony the money.
All right. Okay. Yeah, fair enough. I'm not complaining. Well, mate, look, there's a lot to talk about. So we wanted to start with, I've got a few slides that you've sent me that we can discuss as well. Just let me know whether you want me to pop any of them up. But perhaps you could give it, hold on, before we do, I will give my take and then we'll go to you to give your take. Is that okay? On the Teals. Go for it.
Yep,
okay.
Beautiful.
So my take on all of that is that I would be supportive of the Teals and independents, or independents and Teals. I don't know which way it should go, but I'm certainly supportive of another party. Now, I think we need to understand that the Teals are not necessarily always progressive, that they are more, I guess, moderate, I think. And I'll ask Nathan for his view on that in just a moment, but that's the way I view it. Now, the important thing I think about the Teals is that they do tend to remain independent. I watch every Question Time, and when you see the Teals responding in Question Time, they're the only people that do it with a great deal of respect. And they also seem to have a great deal of respect from the government as well in terms of the way they respond to their questions. But their questions are often about their community, what is happening within their community, the government, which are issues with the government should be addressing. Wilkie's today, for example, asked a question about the reserves, the military within his area, and whether they were going to get funding and that sort of thing. And the response from Tony Burke was that they were. And I see that as productive use of question time as opposed to, attacking each other, which is what the other parties tend to do. I think that there's a space for us to look, if we're looking for another party, if we want to look for an alternative, I guess, to the two-party preferred system that we have right at the moment, then I would suggest that the Tills are certainly an answer to that question. The interesting thing about the Tills too is that most of them, 90% of them, are women. I think there's a couple of men in amongst all of that. And we also must include David Pocock from the Senate in that group as well. And at the moment, they are debating whether or not they should form this illustrious party. So they've still got a long way to go in that. Will they lose their independence? Will they be able to say what they need to say, regardless of so-called party lines? And I hope that they're able to do that, because it'd be nice to be able to break that nexus that sits between, I belong to a party, therefore I must say whatever that party says I say, even though I disagree with it. So there are some issues there that need to be sorted out, I think, and they need to maintain a sense of independence, a sense of representing their communities, and so on. So Nathan, what do you think about all of that, and what would you like to add?
Well, I thought I'd first of all reveal I've got my champagne here. I'm going to announce I'm a champagne socialist and a secret teal shill,
All right.
coming out finally. No, this was actually just to celebrate the channel. From my channel hit 1 year
Yes, to
last
be
week.
celebrated.
Before I give my answer, I just wanted to say to you, Tony, because I want to do this in the intro, but then we got into the teals too early. I really want to thank you for the support of my channel last year, because I think I said on my stream, it got to a point I'd been doing it for about 6 months, and I was, it was going okay. I think I'd had about just over 100 subscribers, and I was sort of getting to the point of like, I gave it a go. Um, that was fun. Maybe it's time to wrap it up and just go back to watching other YouTubers. And it was that week that we actually had the phone call, when I just reached out to you because I saw your channel, sent you an email and just said we should collab. And then you spoke to me on the phone and was incredibly supportive and just said, like, you know, you were telling me your story about how you started, and you spent a while without many subscribers as well. And then it started to take off. And your advice was basically, just to keep going, keep giving it a
Yeah.
go. So I did want to, because I didn't get to thank you on that
No, thanks,
live
mate. I
stream, Tony.
appreciate that.
We mentioned you. You came up a few times, but I just wanted to personally thank you for your support last year, because I probably still wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you. So, and your
Thank
audience
you.
too. I want to thank your audience as well,
Yeah,
because
I
one of
noticed.
them
I
that jumped
noticed on
over
the
to watch me.
I noticed on
I
the
see him
comment
in my
section there are a
comments.
lot
So
of people that join my
yeah,
section, my channel as well, and it's good
yeah,
to see they've moved over as well to support you
yeah.
also, because I tell you what, folks, Nathan talks about things in far greater granular detail than what I do. In fact, someone criticised me, Nathan, the other day for not being granular enough like you. So
Oh well, thank you.
I'll take that on board.
Yeah. So I wanted to cheers to you, Tony. I'm just gonna have a sip of the champagne. I'll put it away.
Thanks, buddy. I've
But yeah,
got my
but thank
coke.
you so
I've
much.
got my
Because yeah,
coke here.
in all honesty, I don't know if I would have fully wrapped it up, but I wouldn't have been consistently as posting if we hadn't had that catch up and then live stream, and your audience jumped over and supported me. So really appreciate that. The teals. So
Go for
I've
it.
decided I'm gonna call myself Nath Stradamus, because at that time last year, I also predicted. I did a video called the Teal Party and got absolutely roasted. I think my audience have now started to realize who I am, because that was around the time that I started really. I went from probably just like, let's say 150 subscribers to like 800 within the space of a month. And people started to understand that I'm a nerd that likes to explore ideas. And just because I'm exploring an idea doesn't mean that I agree with it. So it's an interesting thing, because like right now I do describe myself as an independent. But for the teals, and if you want to show those images, Tony, let's first, if you got the one about the teal party, you can show that it was like December. I don't know if the exact date's on there, but I checked. It was December 23rd where I did the video of the teal party.
That
So
one.
there's a video. So that's my second highest viewed video at the moment. So I'm still a small channel, because that one's only got 3.3 thousand views. But I posted that in December last year.
How
Got
come you got
absolutely
Susan Lee in there
well. So I
and
was wrong
Turnbull?
how I came to. So I predicted it, but I was also wrong in how I came to the prediction. So my theory was that Susan Lee was gonna stand up for herself and put a wedge between herself, the moderates, and the teals. Because Susan Lee is basically a teal, if we're being honest. She was trying to actually be cooperative and evidence based, as hard as that sounds like it is to believe. Even the Bondi attack, you and I talked about this, Tony. Her first statement was about, we're going to work with Albanese and the government we're going to come to a common solution to help the Jewish people. And then someone must have had a chat with her in the back rooms, whether it was the Nationals or whatever. And then they just turned against Albo and tried to attack him relentlessly for his response. So I kind of sort of my way that the party was going to come about was kind of wrong, because now Susan Lee's just going to be a footnote in Australian political history. We've all already forgotten who she is. But the Teal Party is like, if you want to bring up another one.
But that was your prediction, wasn't it? Or didn't you predict that they would attempt to become a party?
Yeah, that was the whole video.
Yeah, that's right.
And because Malcolm Turnbull, look, I'm not going to take credit that it was my idea.
Oh, they listened to you.
Yeah. No, but Malcolm Turnbull's been talking about it for a while, that there's a centre-right party. And I've always said this, like, if you're anyone who's new to like me and my background, is like, my family are very conservative, and my parents are lifelong Liberal voters. And I know when the Liberal Party's done something bad when they don't talk about it. Like, I have not heard Angus Taylor's name mentioned, which suggests to me that he's a loser, that the Liberal, like Dutton, my parents, I don't think have ever said Peter Dutton's name in front of me. So my litmus test is, if my Liberal parents are not talking about it, then they disagree with it. So in that sense, I think what's happening is the right wing is like a mess in Australia. A lot of people have moved over to One Nation, but there are some people on the right that it really breaks down. I think it breaks down in a few different ways. And my latest video was about this, about all the different political divides. There are people on the right, it might be hard to believe, that have like that social conscious, or they do believe in climate change, or they're a bit more like, not necessarily pro LGBT, but they don't really care about that stuff. And they may have assets, like they might be wealthier, have investment properties, but they're disgusted by Pauline, because so many people, like my mother in particular, doesn't like Pauline Hanson. So they're in a bit of a lost place, because they can see the Liberal Party tanking, but they don't want to go to One Nation. So that's what Malcolm Turnbull's been talking about, is it's pretty obvious that there's a market for a sensible centre-right party that's evidence-based. And look, we could disagree with them, because I even said in that video, like, I really want to be clear, I wouldn't vote for a Teal party. That's not my kind of party. And the core dividing lines for me are about their industrial relations policy and fighting for workers, which I don't think that they do, being, you could say centrist or centre-right on economics, depending on the specific policy. So they're not my cup of tea. But I've just said, imagine an opposition party that at least believes in climate change and that humans are responsible and that we could do something about it. So rather than having to fight with an opposition that doesn't believe in climate change and having to have that conversation versus, okay, we all agree that we need to do something, what do we do? Because really, the Teals came about from climate. It was even before Climate 200. It was actually Kooyong, with Simon Holmes-A-Court and Josh Frydenberg, because Simon Holmes-A-Court released a book called The Big Teal, and he described his relationship with Josh Frydenberg that broke down. There was personal reasons, but it was also because of energy policy. And now you could say, yes, Simon Holmes-A-Court was wealthy. He was a son of Australia's first billionaire. So yes, he's a wealthy guy, but he also truly believed that this investment in clean energy is what we need to do. And he argued with Josh Frydenberg on it, because Malcolm Turnbull was on board. Malcolm Turnbull's basically a Teal if he was still in.
Yes, this is true.
His positioning, is he going to be the president of the party or whatnot? But I think the core of it is, there's a rift in the right wing, and it sort of centers on this kind of being either socially left or not really caring about that stuff, versus it's kind of the country city divide a bit. One Nation, Nationals are kind of the country, the Liberals were the city party, and they no longer kind of represent them. But yeah, I think what really might happen, the downside is, the biggest downside is they'll lose their appeal of being independent. Monique Ryan has already said she's not going to be a part of it. And I think of a couple of other, Helen Haynes, I think, as well. Maybe Sophie Scamps. We can probably get the list. But the way that they're stuck is their whole appeal was that they were independent. So if they stop being independent, that might actually backfire on them. So they're really stuck, and I don't know how it's actually going to go. They might call it a Teal Alliance and do a semi-party, which they kind of do anyway. So
yeah, and I think there's a long way to go. I think, quite frankly, there's a long way to go just yet, though. I think that this is the early stage of negotiating. So, and my other, I wonder, I don't know what you think about this, whether there would be any part of the Liberal Party that might see the demise of the Liberals coming and think that political a political party that is more moderate but not totally progressive is really a place in which they can find their home. Like we see people moving from, Tina McQueen, whatever, moving over now to who gives a fuck, but nevertheless, she's moving over to One Nation.
There goes that
Um,
monetization.
yeah, but there might be some more liberals that
Yeah,
perhaps are seeing that this is an opportunity for them to at least maintain their seat,
yeah.
as opposed to going to One Nation also.
Do you like Sloan Zone? I know your audience might. A lot of people might be aware of Sloan Zone. He's done a video
I'm
on it.
aware of it, but I don't watch it. To be
He
honest.
doesn't really reveal his politics. He's either like Labor light or a teal himself. And he made a really good point that it's basically what the Teals would be if they were a party is the original Menzies party, or original what Robert Menzies envisioned,
Yeah.
what liberalism actually is. The part of that I don't like is the austerity, like David Cameron in the UK, who enacted austerity at a time when, with Keynesian economics, you need invest when the economy is starting to go. Kevin Rudd did that well. When the
Mm.
economy is starting to go down, the government needs to invest with public spending, and I don't think the Teals would do that. And that would be
It's
my,
just I find it
aside from the
interesting.
industrial policy, that's my biggest worry is we don't want austerity when things are going badly, and that's what Jess Wilson in Victoria is proposing. And that's why I think Jess Wilson is kind of like, I mean, could they just call themselves the Liberal Party? Like, can they just take that label back? Because that's really what they would be. They kind of want to be the original idea of what the Liberal Party was. Um,
Do you
but I
see?
don't.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say about them financially. What about their attitudes towards economics? Because I haven't seen all that much that would indicate to me that they were more conservative. Um, but perhaps you've seen some things that I haven't.
Well,
Um,
like they voted down. So if I look at it, that this is I'm a candidate based voter. I look at my local candidate and what do they vote for because they're the
mm,
ones that represent me. So another candidate in another seat could vote another way, but I didn't really. They don't represent me. So they did vote. They voted all for Future Made in Australia, the Teals, but they also didn't vote for a lot of Labor's industrial policy around raising minimum wage. A few of them did. Like a few of them, it was more about amendments. Like their whole argument is about small business, and that argument, as a small business owner, it semi resonates with me. I often do think sometimes, I always look at it as like, are they actually captured by big business, and they use small business as like the buffer? Like, oh, this is going to affect
yeah,
small business when it's actually they're defending big business. Because the traditional LNP coalition do that all the time, and One Nation are doing it now. They
yeah.
pretend to be for small business, but they're actually for big business. Um, but Labor, I'm interested. Look, we don't need to go down the rabbit hole of Labor because this is about the Teal Party, but it's really about like I'm looking at my family as an example of like, would they, if there was a Teal Party, would my family go back to them? Because there are people on the right that are pretty disgusted by Pauline and will never vote for One Nation. Like you saw that we saw that in South Australia when we did the live coverage.
Mm,
They
mm.
they still got a lot of seats. The Liberals they didn't collapse completely. Like One Nation took a lot of seats.
Well, they got
But
5
there are those
seats.
dyed in the wool Liberal voters who will not go to One Nation.
Yeah.
And so will they go to a teal kind of party?
Well, I think
Um,
the issue here is really to the degree to which the Teals consider them as a united group with one particular philosophy. Um, I'm not 100% convinced that they have a united philosophy apart from their attitude towards climate change.
as
And I
in,
don't know enough about their financial obligations. I
well,
don't also, and you've caught me a bit off guard here because I don't know about their voting record either, and where they sit around all of those particular issues. I
and
do
that,
know that, as you said, they do put a lot of amendments forward in order to
yeah,
challenge the government about things they're doing, but I don't know where they sit in terms of their ideology, if you like. Do
and
you?
you're right. Well, you're right though, Tony. That's exactly why I think they're probably like if I could have it my way, they're probably better off as independents. Because yeah, you go like David Pocock, Monique
Yeah, I was
Ryan,
just going to say that.
and
Yeah,
they
yeah,
probably have some core philosophy, which is another one is like the anti-corruption,
yeah.
but that's a whole other thing. Because a lot
Like,
of
do
the
they
time,
agree? Do they agree on gas? Do they
well,
agree
yeah,
on
I mean,
David Potak's
look, the gas tax
Pocock's?
is not. I know, like for some people, that's like a core issue and a wedge issue, and they're really attacking Labor for that. I see the philosophy of that. I'm not. That's not a big issue for me. Like I'm not going to change my vote based on the gas tax.
No.
But you see, Pauline Hanson did a 30-minute speech to the
Yeah. Yeah.
Energy
It was.
Council about
Let's borrow
they
what
want
we
to tax it at the point of
let's borrow what
production.
we can from Norway. Let's.
No,
Yeah.
no, hers is different. She wants to tax it at the point of production, not at the export.
Yeah.
The David Pocock gas tax model is like 25% tax on exports, whereas Pauline wants to tax it at the point of production, which is a different price.
And she wants to
But yeah,
invest.
still,
She wants to invest from a government's perspective into it as well. So, and I was thinking,
yeah,
isn't that
left wing,
isn't that
right? The
isn't
government
that
ownership.
socialism?
Yes, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yes, it
So
is.
she's into socialism. Go,
Well, One
Pauline.
Nation have quite left wing policies when you look into it. Like they want to increase Medicare, but it's for certain people. So it's for in the regions that they want to have left wing. So they acknowledge left wing policies are good for their people, but not
Yeah.
for us. Yeah,
But
that's a whole.
not for the most vulnerable people in our community, generally speaking, though.
Well, if you're
I
in
mean,
the
they want
region,
to abolish NDIS. They want. Well, I did a post today on Pauline's wanting to destroy the ABC and her, the way that she deals with the media and stuff. And I think to some extent they're key issues because they're issues to sit down and hit us in the face. But let's get back to the tills. What do you think are the underlying if they did form a party? What do you think is the underlying attraction that would cause people to vote for them?
Really, it's not. I don't think it's a topic change for One Nation. I think it's the fact that they're not Labor or they're not One Nation. I think there's a group of the population that unfortunately are never going to vote for Labor in the sense of like they're asset owners. That Labor are for the workers, right? So they're not going to vote for Labor, but they also aren't going to vote for One Nation. So those people, which I think I put my parents in that category. I'm not trying to just use anecdotal evidence because I think there's a lot of Australians struggling with that. You're a centrist or a centre right person. You don't want to vote for Labor. One Nation are too far on the right. I think my brother, like I've talked to my brother like that. He said that he genuinely doesn't know who he's going to vote for either, because like in that sense, if you don't have a teal independent running in your seat, who do you vote for? There's a whole, and I think that's Malcolm Turnbull's point. There's a whole market there for that group.
And have we? Do you think we've discovered though that the notion around a baked in particular version of who you vote for just is not as realistic as what it used to be? Like we used to think. I mean, my parents, speaking of parents, would never have voted for anybody else but Liberal, no matter who they were. This is the 40s and the 50s, for Christ's sake. But are those people, are they just not there anymore? Are they becoming a minority because of Gen X and so forth taking over? I guess basically, are they dying out, the rust end?
Well, what do they stand like? What do the Liberals stand for? That's the question. They don't stand for anything except if you're an investor, we'll keep the capital gains tax discount and we'll keep your negative gearing. It's like that investor class, big business is who they fight for. And I think young people are fully caught on to that because their vote is created in the population. But you look at the young people vote for the Liberal Party. I don't even know what it is. It could be as low as 10% now or whatnot. And you need to it's just maths. Like the next generations that are coming up, you need to win them over, and their policies offer nothing to young people.
But what are the tills offering? Because it is.
Well, that's a fair point. That's a
Gen
fair
X
point.
are interested in climate change. They want to know how the environment's going to turn out for them.
Yeah, maybe that. I think as well that the next thing is happening is the wealth transfer from the boomers to the younger generations. And I've seen this like with personal stories of people that I know, but also trends. It's the private school kid class trader trend, I would call it, where it's like there was a lot of kids like in the Higgins. It used to be called Higgins the seat. Now it's kind of split up into like Kooyong and that. So it's like we're talking like Glen Iris, Toorak, South Yarra, Victoria, like the wealthy suburbs. Younger people who are like socially conscious, maybe even like class conscious. So they might even vote for the Greens because the Greens do really well, surprisingly well in those areas. And that's mostly young people. But now these young people are starting to inherit the money or starting to catch on that, oh, hang on. if we go with the Greens policies of like more taxing of the wealthy and more like things like that, that'll affect us personally. And so there's the younger people are starting to go, hang on, I may not actually be on the left economically. I might care about the environment and care about the social side of things, but I'm about to inherit a bunch of money from my parents and I don't want to be taxed. And they're starting
Do you
to go,
think
hang
young
on, oh, well,
people?
who's for me then? And that's where the Teals might step in. And that's what I do think Monique Ryan did really well with young people in her electorate. Because people think of Turak as just this like wealthy old rich people, but it's like, but they have children. There's renters that live there as well. So I think it's quite a complicated economic group that I don't really think a lot of the parties actually, like Labor in particular, Labor people don't, they probably don't interact with those people. I interact with those people because of where I work. I work in a diverse area in that area, but yeah, there's an interesting sort of social, like it's never before been seen, Tony. So this is all new. I think this is what we're talking
But
about is like
do
those
you think
classic
young?
liberal voters
eh,
there.
But are young people sitting back and thinking, well, I can't, I don't want to. I will one day become wealthy, and if I become one of that wealthy class,
Well,
I'm going to be
aspirational, yeah,
punished by the Labor Party. Is that
100%, yeah. I think a lot of people think that, yeah. Yep.
God? Who do you hang around with? What sort of
It's not just
what
no, it's
sort of
not.
strange young people are you dealing with, mate?
Well, it's just also, well, it's not all of that I hang out with, but like my work, because I work in South Yarra, my office is in South Yarra.
Oh yeah,
So there's a lot of like social housing, university students. It's also central to this, like it's really close to the CBD. So it's central to where anyone, like I have people come from the suburbs to see me, or I do telehealth and stuff like that. So I'm not just hanging out with these people, but what I'm seeing is the trend. People just immediately assume young people are more left wing, which in general is true. Like Greens and Labor have their highest voter proportion generationally with young people, but it's not just young. Like young people don't just vote for them. There's a contingency where they're like, okay, I care about the environment. I don't want pollution. I want clean energy. But my mum's gonna like my mum and dad are gonna have $1 million that is gonna come down to me. I don't want
isn't
Labor's
it
tax.
strange? We hang out in different client groups, mate. I mean, I hang out. The people I've been hanging out with for the last 30 years are people who think, well, it's just a trouble getting through the day. I have
Well, I
so
live
many
out. Well,
mental.
look,
Yeah,
I
they're not.
live out in the
Most of the
suburbs. I
people
don't live
I
where I
work
work.
with don't even consider politics as something that should or that would impact their lives because they're so busy just trying to survive.
Well, where I actually live, and the people I talk to in my local community are not like this. My seat's tipped to go to One Nation. My seat's called Pakenham. If anyone knows Pakenham in Victoria,
Yeah.
you immediately know what I'm talking about. It's a
What's
working
what's
class.
what's near Pakenham? What do you
Nothing.
mean outside of Fair pun?
It's the middle of nowhere. It's the outer suburbs. It's a lot of housing estates, but we've got an interesting area here where we have a lot of immigrants and we have a lot of the, how do I call it, white bogan Aussies that drive their Ford Raptors that are fed up and they're going to vote for Pauline this time round. So I see a diverse group of the Australian community, and that's my whole channel is about getting out of our bubbles. The area where I work and the area where I live are like opposite worlds.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
guess I guess my point is that the people that live in that opposite world to the one
mm,
I don't know, I guess to where you work,
yeah.
yeah, are people that I do wonder about whether they, I've spoken to lots of people around voting and they don't think about it from one day to the next until they're actually in the polling booth. And then they think, oh, God,
Mm.
I've now got to make a decision or, I've got to draw a penis on my page and get an informal vote. I mean, um, I don't know if people. So I guess my question is this: Look,
I
how
feel
do
like I'm
we
breaking.
resonate? How can the tools resonate
Well,
enough to be able to attract the
I,
vote from those people who are not committed?
well,
Because there are a
look,
lot
so
of
I
them.
don't think the
I don't know who
teals
these polls are.
a
The
teal would
three
not
thousand
appeal.
people
So
that.
I just have to respond. Someone asked on my on my stream. My stream's working now, Tony. By the way,
Oh,
someone
thank
said, "Do I
God.
commute from Pakenham to South Yarra daily?" Yes, I do. I don't go to the office all days because I do work from home. Like today, I'm at home. But yes, I do commute. Um, I don't think the teals have much of an appeal outside of the cities. So the teals are kind of like the greens in that they're geographically limited. I mean, One Nation's geographically limited to the regions. So that's what I think. I'm saying with a right wing divide is that I don't think the teals offer much to the people where I live. and I don't think One Nation offers much to the people where I work, which is like inner city. So that's where the right, and this is, oh, I'm telling my Labor people, this is the best thing that could happen to Labor, really, is if the right wing splits into two separate parties that don't preference each other,
Mm.
Labor will get in for 1,000 years. Tony Abbott will be like Xi Jinping. Not
Oh
Tony Abbott,
God,
sorry, Albanese.
Albanese.
Anthony Albanese will be like Xi Jinping. If the right wing genuinely split like this and there's no love between them in terms of preferencing, then we're going to get at least another decade of Labor. So Labor people should be out in the street celebrating right now.
But then it raises the question as to whether the Teals could be attractive enough to attract the vote in the outer suburban areas and some of those country areas.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's 100% a great question, and I don't think they will. I think One Nation's to just because the thing is, immigrants move out here too, and I'm pretty pro immigrant in the sense of like, I know we have to have limits and cap it. We don't want to just we're not open borders, but I think multiculturalism is great for Australia, but a lot of people don't. Let's be honest. And even immigrants, people think immigrants are pro-immigration, but a lot of immigrants come here and then want to shut the door behind them because we saw that in the
They
last.
do. I heard of that
American
recently, actually.
People who think immigrants are pro-immigration are kidding themselves. So I hope that One Nation doesn't get in my seat, but I wouldn't be surprised if they do. But if this Teals, but the thing is too, Tony, the numbers, like there's so many more, like, Adelaide, we did this with the South Australian election.
Yeah.
Is it true that Adelaide has about the same amount, like in Adelaide City, has about the same amount of seats as like South Australia? So sometimes it doesn't really matter.
Well, heaps.
Yeah.
Adelaide is very central.
Well, we have
South
that with
Australia is
Melbourne
very
too.
central.
Victoria's similar to that as well. Melbourne's very central too.
Yeah, but Queensland is different. Queensland is actually decentralised. So hence the reason why you tend to have far more right.
I don't think a Teal party would have much appeal in Queensland outside of Brisbane. So they might pick up a few seats. Look, I don't think a Teal party would ever get in power. I don't think they'll ever surpass Labor, to be honest with you.
No, but they might actually turn out to be, if the election is tight, they might be the party that the Labor Party could form a government with.
Oh, yeah.
If they only had 1 or 2 seat majority. So, like we talk about the Liberals getting together with One Nation, but no one ever talks about Labor getting together with the Teals.
there's like a devil's question. I've got Maze. I think Maze is in my chat. Maze, what would Labor do in that case with a minority government? Would they work with Greens or the Teals?
Yeah,
they're probably going to shoot themselves in the head.
well, maybe. Well, yeah, because the Labor hates the Greens. We know that for a fact.
Oh, Labor,
but there are so few of them. There are more Teals than there are Greens. There are more independents than there are Greens.
That's the other question about where would young people go? Like the young inner city people. And that's the demographic that I work with a lot of young, like my client base is younger males. So I do see a certain part of the population. But the Teals and Greens have the thing is, the problem will be the Teals, if they form a party, will lose a lot of that appeal because the Teals right now have an anti-establishment appeal of being independent, community independent. And that's why Monique Ryan has even said she won't join a party because she'll lose her appeal of being an independent.
Yeah.
So it may backfire. And then the Greens might pick up the gap. But
Sandra's suggesting that there may be some charismatic Teal might appear in Pakenham, mate.
Nah.
So, like yourself,
I don't know about that.
Like she's referring to you as a political
really?
operative. Is that right, Sandra? You want to see? Would you like to see this man here standing for Parliament as an independent Teal voter? Here's an opportunity. Let's start a campaign for Nathan Ogilvie to become a politician out in his area.
I don't think I could do that to my family, to be honest.
They love you too much, do they?
Well, yeah. I mean, I saw what happened to Michelle Millthorpe in Farrer, which is very sad. She's a lovely lady, and despite what you think of her politics, the way she was sort of tarred and feathered by people was pretty horrible. She wasn't really abused or assaulted or anything at that level, but her name was dragged through the mud for no real. I mean, you get in politics, that's what happens, right? So, you put yourself in there, you kind of expect it, but I don't know if I would do that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd be a Teal because Climate 200 say they don't dictate policy, but I would definitely vote with Labor on increasing workers' rights, right to disconnect, things like that. So I'd probably disagree with my other independent Teals on a lot of those pro-worker policies. So, I'm a union. People probably don't know. I'm a union member through the university. I'm in the NTEU. So I don't
All
know if the
right,
Teals will get
you're one of those university people, are you? Because
yeah,
we've
I'm in
just
the
been
league.
hammered by Sky News over the last couple of days for
Yeah,
holding a
no one.
conference in Queensland.
Imagine wanting to train psychologists to help people with their mental health. Imagine how elite that makes me.
Well, you are elitist. I mean, I accept that because
Okay.
I'm just a
Yeah.
humble social worker, mate. I sit way
Yeah.
below you on that scale of inferiority. I'm right down the bottom.
Yeah.
Regional areas are need more people and infrastructure, but are voting for one nation against immigration. And I guess that's an interesting point. Do we see immigration as being the substantive issue that that really is driving this debate? Or is it the divisiveness and the dissatisfaction issue? And
Yeah.
I do wonder whether or not over time, and I've commented about this in a recent post, that the mass immigration issue is going to be less important over time because there'll be all these other issues that we'll have to vote on. But whether it will maintain its position as a major issue for one nation and for their voters.
Yeah, I mean that's their core issue, and this is the difference between when you talk
Yeah.
about like the segments of the population. I had a friend. Maybe I shouldn't tell this story, but I'm going to anyway. I know he's not watching, so
Oh, you
uh,
sure? You want to check
well,
yours?
I got to be careful. I'm not going to say his name or anything, but he'll know when he'll know if he ever sees this. He'll know I'm talking about him, but no one
Yeah.
else will know. So it's not really important. He's a cop in Victoria, and I went out for dinner with him on Friday, and we we talk on social media and stuff and all of that. Oh god, I'm on a one. I'm a wanna. I want to see a facial reaction, Tony. No, that's okay. No, we were out for dinner and he sort of said like, basically his exact words were like, "I can't wait to vote for One Nation this time round," and that concerned me because it's like I can see the tide turning with people that may be, I guess like centrist, you would say, or people that I know wouldn't agree with all of that stuff, but I think the immigration message is cutting through to a segment of the population that, um, I mean, that's the reason I'm doing the channel is just try to give counter information. You know, I've never endorsed anyone, or I've made my position clear that I don't necessarily like support a party right now. That might change by the next election, but the right wings, I don't know if it's the right wing slop. You know, if we look at the tier list that I did, the Labor haters, the media largely hates Labor, and the anti-Labor propaganda is like alive and well. But I was very concerned that a friend of mine that I think he'd actually told me he voted for the Greens last time. Although he did the political test and he got the Bob Catter party. So he's a bit all over the
Ah,
place.
oh
He's a bit all
dear.
over the place politically,
But
but these people still vote. This is what people don't understand is you could be disgusted by these people, or you could say, oh, they have no ideology or consistency because they vote all over the spectrum. But One Nation seems to be like the honey to these bees or whatever you want to, you know, that's not a good metaphor, but One Nation seems to be doing the same thing Trump did of like, you know something's wrong, you're pissed off, come and vote for us. We're gonna fight back. You know, they're coming for you and we're gonna fight for
is
you.
it?
It's all
Could it
vague and
be?
really emotional, but it's
Could your
landing with a
friend
lot of people.
though?
Yeah.
Could your friend though have been waiting for a third party to become prominent so that he could cast his vote elsewhere? Like, are there people that kind of been sitting on their hands waiting for this opportunity? Suddenly, it has arisen. May not necessarily agree with all of their policies, but may feel a little bit more comfortable voting for someone, I guess, who they kind
Well,
of align with simply because they are a third party.
well, I think that elite. I think it's partly the anti-establishment message, partly the people versus the elites. And I think what the people that miss the immigration argument, I don't agree. Again, this is where it's like, I like to explore the psychology of things. It doesn't mean I agree with it, but I think that the idea of like the elites are letting in the immigrants and we're going to fight that is what Pauline's basically been saying for 30 years, lands with a certain group of people. Because people just look around in their lives and go, what do I see and what connects with me? And they're seeing Australia is becoming more diverse, and then they're being told that that's the problem. I don't agree with that.
So I have
A
a
lot of
great
people
deal of
do.
issue with that because Pauline Hanson back in 1996 was an incredibly ignorant woman, as ignorant as she is today, and
Yeah.
her and I guess it's transference in a bizarre sort of way. Like, she's never learnt from any of that. She's never understood anything about immigration and how it really does work. She's probably had immigrants build her house, and farm in her farm, fix her car. She's probably had immigrants drive her in an Uber, but pays no attention to where they come from or what's important to them or what's important to Australia by having them here. I mean, they're things that probably don't resonate with Pauline because she's an ignorant individual.
I think
So, yeah, she isn't. I guess what I want to say is she isn't propagating anything that's in depth, that's been considered, that is based on any sort of intricate research. It's just based on her own 1996 racist view of the world, and she's
mm,
transferring that some 30 years later. And
mm,
I find that a bit sad.
mm. You'll find though, Tony, that her voters will see that consistency as the plus. Because Trump had a problem when he was a Democrat, like even like 3 years before he ran as a Republican. But Pauline has the benefit of going, see, I've been talking about this for 30 years. The other side too, this is the other part that I try to explain to my lefty friends that don't want to listen to me. Or don't, not me, they don't want to listen to the One Nation supporters as opposed to the One Nation politicians, is that this isn't just Pauline. Like, this is Nigel Farage in the UK. This is Trump in the US. Most Western countries, and even the European, like Orban, thankfully just got voted out, but he was that Trumpy. It's an archetype. It's a there's something going on beyond the individual person, and I think what it is very sinister. Like it's very much a right wing playbook of like, who can we blame that's below, like the elites, the real elites are like, well, we don't want to. The funny thing is, no one wants to identify as the elite. So the real elites, like Gina Reinhardt and that, are like, well, we don't want to be blamed. So who can we find that we can trick the population into blaming? And for some reason, the immigrants works because it's the othering. These people look a bit different. It kind of makes a little bit of sense. It's like if they come over and they live in the houses and they take the jobs, then we can tell the population. This is a tale as old as the Nazis did this. This is not new. It's just that it's effective, and that's the thing that scares me, is like silencing or shutting down those people's concerns only draws it doesn't draw them to us, it draws them more towards Pauline. And that's the thing that I'm shouting from the rooftops is, we can go after Pauline. I don't like Pauline. I'm never voting for Pauline. I agree with everything that you've said, but that doesn't solve the problem of there's a big portion of the population, and growing every day, that's listening to Pauline going, yeah, that makes sense to me.
But
She's
I don't,
fighting for
and I
me.
guess, look,
It makes no
ignorance
sense.
is,
It doesn't make sense,
it
but
doesn't make sense.
for them it makes sense. Yeah,
Ignorance is dangerous,
yeah.
and like, yeah, the issue that we raised about mass migration, terrible word, doesn't apply, bullshit, but nevertheless, the issue around immigration and also tariffs in the United States. So, Trump has had that thing about tariffs since the mid 80s, right? He can't let it go no matter
Yeah.
what. It's not informed. It's a crazy, crazy notion. The same with immigration is exactly the same. It's just an embedded view of the world that she and he has, and it doesn't produce anything apart from chaos. And I guess my major concern is that if that is the degree to which she expresses herself, and that's the degree of research that she does, and it is embedded in this horrible, horrible sense of ignorance, then to rely on her to govern this country or to influence the government of this country, because she'll probably never govern it, I think is just a disaster waiting to happen, as is the United States. And if we're going to buy into that, if the population is going to buy into that, it may not be Pauline Hanson, may be somebody else, who knows? But if we're going to buy into that as a country, we're fucked.
I don't think we'll buy into it as a country. I don't think we're that far gone.
But we already are. But you already said we already are, aren't we? We've bought into it.
No.
You
Not as
just talked up Farage and what's happened in Italy.
I would define it as, I don't know the exact percentage, but let's say it's about 20% right now that are going to vote for one.
You're making up figures now, Nathan. Let's be honest.
No, the average of polls is about 20%.
All right.
But it was they only got 6.5% last election. So let's say if we take the average of polls as what they would.
Oh, their poll. You're talking about their poll.
Like One Nation.
One Nation poll. Right. Okay. Yep.
So I don't think they're ever going to get anywhere near 50%. I mean, no party gets near that. I think Labor got near 40% with Kevin Rudd.
Yep.
So I don't think Labor's ever going to get primary lower than One Nation. What I'm worried about is if the right wing in Australia finds their Trump that can unite, let's say it's a teal and a one nation party, someone that's smart and savvy enough, charismatic enough to bring those two coalitions together, or those two sides of the right wing together, they'll have more numbers than Labor, and then therefore we'll get into power. Because Tony Abbott sort of did it. I mean, Labor had its own problems at that time, and the Greens were sort of not that helpful then too,
Yep.
and all of that. So that was a unique situation. But my concern, I did say in the past, I think it might be a Josh Frydenberg, but I think his association with the Liberal Party now might have shot him in the foot. So I don't know if there
Yep.
is even that person, but that's what Trump was in the US. He brought together all these sort of factional right wing, he basically just hostile overtook the Republican Party. He just said, we're doing it my way. He had that unique blend of narcissism and just force of personality that he basically forced the right wing to come together, and that's how they beat the Democrats. And
Yeah,
just
and
barely too. Like, they didn't even get the primary vote. So
Yeah,
even if
interestingly enough, though, I don't see much of an intellectual gap between Donald Trump and Pauline Hanson, though. I mean, admittedly,
Yeah.
one was given hundreds of millions of dollars to commence his life as a wealthy person and had a wealthy father. Pauline had a
Yeah.
fish and chip shop. So there are some distinct contrasts between the two.
This
But
Trump's
intellectually, they're both run parallel to each other, I think.
But I think the voters don't put much weight in that kind of intellect that you're talking about. You know what I mean? I think they put a lot more weight into like owning the libs, as they would say in the US. It's like their narrative is what is
So
appealing.
they'd put more, they'd be attached more to wokeness, would you think?
Well, almost
than
like
anything
Hillary's an
else.
example, right? Hillary had like a 11-point economic plan to turn America around in 2016. Could anyone name one of the points on that 11? The Democrats are kind of like the Labor Party, not very different, like not exactly translatable, but Labor people, could anyone name any part of Hillary's economic plan?
No.
She just didn't land with the people. And she's, what you're saying, she's intellectually smart, didn't win the election. So I don't know what voters put. I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know if I agree with that. I would like an intellectually smart person.
I'm not suggesting that someone be intellectually smart. I'm just suggesting I don't expect someone to be Mensa. I mean, I don't expect them to have some sort of even higher education for that matter. I expect them to be a human being who is reasonable. That's all I ask.
Yeah, that's where the teals come in for the right wing. I think is that we kind of sometimes arbitrarily define ourselves on the lines of left and right, but the people that would put themselves on the right probably agree with you on Pauline Hanson, I would say, and they're waiting for that person to come along that's not a Labor person, but they can go, okay, like a Malcolm Turnbull, that they could say, okay, this person, I could put my trust, because really that's what we do with politicians. We put our trust, because even my local member, I don't know exactly how he's voted on every single issue, but I generally know how my member's a Liberal member, one of the last remaining, it seems like. I generally know how he's voting, and I'm not happy with that. Like my next federal election, if I'm still living in this electorate, I'm going to trying to vote him out like I did last time. So I think that's what it is. Is like people want to trust the politician that they vote in, but then it's like what factors we put into that trust, I think varies. Like the populist, Pauline and Trump use that populist thing of like, even though they are probably elites on most metrics, they still have convinced their voters like, I'm fighting for you against the elites. I'm infiltrating. That's what Trump supporters would say.
Drain the swamp.
He's in the Epstein files because he was fighting for the children. Like, give me a break.
Bullshit.
But people believe it though. That's the thing, right? Like if you have that, it's just there's some personality trait of that force of nature of like they just push through logic and they get out to the other side and somehow survive.
Yeah, and I guess the difference is, I don't see Pauline Hanson as a psychopathic liar like you do with Trump. I don't even see her as narcissistic. I just see her as ignorant and pathetic.
I see her as narcissistic. You mean Pauline Hanson?
Pauline Hanson. I don't see her
she's
absolutely
as narcissistic. Yeah, she can't take any.
Oh, she can't. I don't. Okay, but because you can't take, I agree. I've just done a post.
Pauline Hanson's One Nation Party, Tony.
Yeah, I understand all of that. I don't see this. Well, let me reframe it.
Yeah.
I don't see the same level of narcissism with her that I do with Donald Trump.
Well, no one has the same level as Trump. Trump is a unique historical figure that will be studied in psychology for generations because there's no one with the level of narcissism that he has. I
and
will admit to that.
psychopathology either.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, all of the above. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Whereas I don't kind of put point answer that saying,
Well,
oh,
you can't compare
I'm
anyone
probably
to Trump.
cutting her some
Trump's at the
slack, to
top.
be
If we did a
honest.
tier list of narcissism,
Yeah,
Trump
we
has
should
his own
do.
tier list.
We should do
Let's do a
like
tier list of narcissistic politicians. Trump is in his own category, way out the top, like 100 out of 100, whatever scale we're using. Trump is max narcissism.
we should do like a Maslow's hierarchy of some
Yeah,
description.
we'll
that
do it. Yeah,
describes-
Maslow's hierarchy of narcissism. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
Pauline wouldn't be too far below, though. I would posit to you. Like I would put her at high, whatever we're looking at the scale. She's pretty high up there. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe so. I don't know
she
what others
genuinely,
think.
because the thing is, the way you can tell separate narcissists out is, do they have any regard or care for anyone else other than themselves? And Trump does not. But Pauline, I do think she does for farmers in regional areas. Like I think
she's got
maybe
some
we can agree.
empathy.
We can disagree with their policies, but I've seen that video when she was on Ellen Jones crying about the farmers and that to me was, she wasn't performing that. Like she really sees the hurt of the farmers. Now she has a lot of terrible ideas and policies around that, but I do, and I think her daughter, she seems to genuinely care about her family and that. Whereas Trump just uses his he's not even going to his son's wedding. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I
Trump's
did.
not even
Yeah.
going to his own son's wedding. So Trump and Pauline on the narcissism scale do separate out. But
I do
Pauline
have.
there though.
I
She
do have
has
this-
some care for others though, but it's limited.
haven't heard of this one before, but Mr. Beach has posted she is exhibiting some signs on dementia.
Oh, we got
of
Coops in the
dementia.
chat.
I haven't seen that yet, but I will. I
Just
tell you
keep
what, Mr. Beach, keep an eye out on that because that would be an interesting take, I would think.
Yeah, Pauline. Yeah, she's old, right? She's like 72. I shouldn't say that, Tony. Sorry, but she's
Yeah,
that's
don't
what
insult
happens.
my age.
But she's always had that. She's always. I've even seen videos of her, even the Please Explain video, which I think was like the 90s or early 2000s. She's always had a bit of
soon after she was elected in '96.
She's always been a bit of a nervousy, shaky person. Like I don't know if she's changed that. Because in her speech, I watched some of that speech about the energy policy, and she's very shaky in terms of like her communication. But I think she's always been a bit like that. Some people just don't have that style, so I don't know. I try not to diagnose people with dementia because that's a really serious.
It's a really hard thing to do. I understand that. She is exhibiting some signs of. Oh, I've already played that one. No, that wasn't the one I went to play. I meant to
I
play
try
this
not.
one.
I have a personal connection with dementia with my grandfather, so I try not to make fun of people for that.
Yeah, I've got a personal dementia because of my own. Trump said it himself he is humble. Yes, right. I actually have never heard Pauline refer to herself as being humble. I don't know whether she uses such adjectives. What's that?
If someone refers to themselves as humble, I mean, come on. That's literally like, I do that as a joke sometimes. I say how humble I am.
Yeah, so I don't know how psychologically you describe that in terms of a person's personality, though. But and referring yourself as a third person, though, that's a bit narcissistic and crazy, I reckon, which Trump does all the time. So where do we think Tills are going? What's the bottom line in relation to who they are, the direction that they're heading, and would you be celebrating, Nathan, the Tills party? Someone suggested one party as the party name. One party, which I thought was rather nice. What do you think? What would happen if you had this new party standing in Australia? Would you expect them to nominate candidates for most seats? Would you expect them to be serious about winning government? Or would you expect them just to be there to kick the other parties in the teeth?
I don't think the Teals will ultimately form a party. I think they'll probably back out at the last minute because I think they'll need to all do it together. And right now it looks like they don't have that energy to get everyone on board. So it's probably going to be more of a loose alliance, which is, as I've already said, they kind of already have that anyway. So it'll probably just be an announcement that we're formalizing an alliance, which we kind of already have. If they did become a party, I think it's similar to like the Labour Party and the Greens, which are kind of, you get the two sort of big, even though the Labour Party is much bigger, the two left wing parties are never really going to form a coalition. I don't think the Teals and One Nation would ever work together. So again, I think the real winner of all this is the Labour Party. I think that the Teals may win back disaffected Liberals and probably inner city younger people and moderates who don't really have a political home right now. Because I think they're all looking at the Liberal Party and going, there's nothing left. So it's basically just the Liberal Party rebranded. Yeah, I saw someone before say Susan Lee
I think
might
that's
join the
I think
Liberal,
that's a
join the
terrible
Teal
thing.
Party. It's just like it's actually
Is
kind of
that the way
already
you see them? Do you see them as just a Liberal Party rebranded?
yeah,
Don't
what's
see
the
them as
original
anything.
Liberal Party? Menzies. This is what Sloan Zone talked about, and it was he was 100% spot on. The Teals are basically what Robert Menzies back in when they formed the Liberal Party was supposed to be. It's basically just Liberal parties being themselves again. So that's what I said. They may as well just take the Liberal Party branding back. Just say, "Yoink, we're going to take this back." And
It was
try and
we must
revive it.
remember too that it was Menzies that started the welfare state.
Yeah, well,
It was.
a lot of the Teals don't want to repeal. I'm worried a lot of them are leaning into austerity politics, like, not Allegra Spender, but the other one, Zali Steggall, maybe.
Yeah.
We're talking about cutting spending and stuff like that, which I'm not a fan of. So we've got to keep our eye on that. But I think the Labor Party it'll just split the right. I think a lot of people who are thinking about One Nation will go back to the Teal Party.
So if that's the case, if it does do that, what would be the advantages for a new party?
I think it's because I feel this too is like it's an identity thing. Like liberal, you were saying, Tony. You know the people that have like decades long voted the Liberal Party. I don't know if you've spoken to them about how they're feeling right now, but the Liberal Party is nearly dead. It's like it's on life support. Yeah. Angus Taylor, I'm going to Trumpian brand him as Angus Failure because I've had people like message me, like I think Maze is still in my chat. He messaged me about Angus Taylor, about the budget. I didn't even watch his budget reply because he's such a dud. He's worse than Dutton. There, I'll say it. Angus Taylor.
Oh my God. Yep.
Dutton was at least so bad I could actually watch him because I hate watched Dutton. I look at Angus Taylor and I feel nothing. Like he is not going to be the leader of the Liberal Party for very long. If he takes them to the election, he's going to lose badly, if he even gets there. So, and I think the Liberal Party people are smart enough to even know that. And so they're in an existential crisis of so many of them don't want to vote for Pauline. So I think all it does is it gives them a political home to go, okay, here's this.
So you're
they're not going to go Labour. Like asset owning, high income people that don't want to vote Labour, but also don't want to vote One Nation. They need a home. Yeah. And are the Teals going to build them that home? I don't know. But if they do, I'm sure they'll get, at least 20% of the vote. And that's probably it.
Yeah. So you're suggesting that for disaffected Liberal voters, they may, and they don't want to vote for One Nation, they may vote for the Teals. Is that your prediction?
Sorry, say that again.
The disaffected Liberal voters who do not want to vote for One Nation may vote for a Teal party.
I would probably go beyond May and just say I think that's what would happen. Yeah, I think that's what would happen.
Right. So anyone who doesn't want to vote for, let's put it differently. Anyone who doesn't want to vote for a major party may choose to vote for the major party or One Nation may choose to vote for the Teals.
Yeah, look, it depends on like the thing with One Nation is it depends because Pauline's really, the way I've seen her adjust is because she's now doing these long form videos on policy. It'll depend how seriously the right wingers take her, because she's been a joke in Australian politics for a very long time, and a lot of, as I said, like with my friend who's now can't wait to vote for One Nation. A few years ago, would have been joking about Pauline too.
But why does he want to vote for One Nation?
Undecided right wingers that they don't want to really vote for One Nation, but the Liberals are just duds. So they're like, where the hell do we go? It'll just be who has the convincing message. It depends who the leader. If the Teals don't have a party, it'll depend who the leader is. Like who's going to lead that party, and who's going to be? Are they going to be more charismatic than Pauline?
And
Because a
what?
Turnbull might have a shot, but he's a bit old. I don't think he would do that on the front line. But the
Oh,
part of the Teals' approach is that they're a bit more mellow. Like in their personal style, they're not that aggressive,
yeah,
and that's not going to work against Pauline. You know, they need a kind of a Trumpian Teal. David Pocock, maybe.
David, just thinking of that, but I don't know if he's on
He's
board.
not even that Trumpian. He's a pretty like moderate guy
Yeah,
in a lot of
but
ways.
he's a good.
So I don't know
Is
if
an
he'd,
articulate dude.
yeah. I mean, who would have said David Pocock, the leader of a political party, like 10 years ago? This is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
we're in some
footballer.
time. What
Yeah,
is it called? Twilight Zone thing of
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah. No one would
former
have thought of
rugby
that.
player, a former rugby player, possibly running a political party that might have a shot of, well, not a shot of winning, but it's really they're in the race for second place. That's what this is. Labor's going to win, and it's just who comes in second, like the
Yeah,
South Australian election, really,
yeah,
but just a slightly different
yeah.
blue color.
So is there any? So, given what you just said, is there any value in talking about all of this? Given that we perhaps know
Not
the
really.
end result anyway, like who cares?
Not really.
Yeah, we're
Just
just
something fun to talk about.
consuming internet time and
Well, do
space
you want to
and
bring up my
bandwidth.
do you want to bring up my graphic on the Teals? Because I can
Oh
review
right,
what
yeah.
I've said and maybe we can end on this because I probably have to wrap up
Which
soon.
one? The independent vote share one?
Yeah.
That one?
Oh well, no. Well, that one just shows that the Liberal in the last election, the coalition primary got less than all. If you combined all the independents and minor parties together, they actually came in third. No, but my other one about the Teal Party, the one that's like, yeah. So this is what I said. Their focus of the party that kind of answers your question: clean energy. Well, that's the thing is like if the opposition party, so if it was Teals instead of One Nation, at least we could have more discussions about where do we invest in clean energy versus should we or not. That would be
Mm.
great. But yeah, like the anti-union stuff, I'm not a fan of, so I wouldn't vote for a Teal party because I'm pretty sure that's what they would do. I mean, we haven't talked about big money, but that's probably for another day because it's like, yeah, where would Gina? Well, see, Gina Reinhart wouldn't invest in a Teal party, but where would some other big business people invest? Like, would Kerry Stokes and Murdoch? No, Murdoch probably wouldn't. I
No,
think he would stay with One
no.
Nation. So look, they probably wouldn't have the big
Well, he
money.
supports. It's through Sky News, mate. He's already supporting One Nation. No disputing that.
Yeah, but then I guess like if there was a centre right party, would they be able to bring some of the big money back? Well, I mean, if Murdoch
Yeah.
came back to the Teal party, then I'll be a hater. I wouldn't just be like, let's have a look at them. I would be an active hater of them if that's the case. But
Yeah. So I guess one of the
you know,
other things too that
no.
one of the other things that's kind of come from this conversation too, I think, for me anyway, is that we don't understand perhaps enough about what a Teal party would actually represent and what diversions they would take from either the Labor Party or One Nation that would make them significant. We don't
Yeah.
understand that enough. I guess we haven't got enough information about what a
Yeah.
joint party would look like.
My
We understand
last
the Greens because they're pretty
Yeah.
clear about all of that stuff. We know exactly where
Yeah.
they stand because
Mm.
they're one party and there's only a handful of them. But
Yeah.
with the Teals, we just, because they're so diverse, I guess, we just don't know.
I think the other thing, it's kind of the establishment argument, but the last thought for me is that the Teals at least are very supportive of institutions and not the established, not like the deep state, but they don't want to tear it all down. I think that's my worry of One Nation is if they get enough power in government to be like a crossbench or wields like I think the risk in Victoria is I don't think anyone thinks that One Nation's going to be in power. But if they get enough seats in the upper house to be able to block things, that will affect real people's lives because things like the NDIS, Centrelink, Social Security, investment in infrastructure, all of the above. If the One Nation just want to tear that all down and defund it, the people we work with, Tony, the people in society that really need that support, are going to suffer, and that's my
but there'll be repercussions, though, won't there? If they did do that, there'd be
but
repercussions at a federal election.
I just don't want it to be torn down in the first. It's like,
no, true.
You could
You damaged too
burn
many
down my
lives.
house and I can rebuild it, but I prefer you didn't burn my house down in the first place.
Yeah.
Like just because
Okay,
my
and
house will be built back again in a year, in a while. But they're right. No, you're right. That's actually a serious point, and this is what I'm starting to tell my One Nation people who watch me is like, be careful what you wish for because the pendulum does swing back.
yeah,
I got this guy Larry always comments, and he's like, "Oh, you're just listening to One Nation because the tide's turning and we're coming for you." And I'm like, "Yeah, but that's just because you've got the anti-establishment hype, and soon as like it's happening in the US, soon as you're in power, the resistance comes against you. Like One Nation are basically saying, we hate the establishment, make us the establishment. We'll burn it all down. People are going to lose all their services and struggle even more, and then people are going to come after One
well, it's
Nation. The backlash to
that's
them will be huge. Oh, I
but it's
don't
Trump.
doubt.
It,
Yeah,
but it's Trumpism, though, isn't it? Because we'll
it
drain
is.
the
Yeah.
swamp, but
Well,
we'll
I don't doubt
become the
if One
swamp.
Nation got in. Let's say One Nation did get in, and Pauline was PM. Labor
Oh
in the
God,
next election would probably win in. Like they could get 50% because people would see how bad it is,
yeah,
and
exactly.
Labor would then just like dominate. So if Labor really want to do well, they probably should just let One Nation have a term. But the problem with that is the damage they could do could be irreversible, and I don't want that. I don't want people to struggle anymore. People are struggling enough, so let's not.
That always reminds me of my father back in 1974 when 1972 when Labor got in was with Whitlam, was that according to him it was going to be the end of the world. He would have been having a conversation like the one you just had about the possible outcome, but it wasn't. But I think the politics is so different today, and we know what happens in terms of the polarization of the right, that it is likely that it will be devastating because we'll have a whole bunch of people like in the US who don't know how to govern. And that's another issue that I've raised before, is that, at least we may not like the politicians that we've got, but if they've been doing the job for a long time, like Albanese, at least they know how to do the job. Whereas if you've got One Nation in, they wouldn't know how to do the job. They'd have the public service to help them, but they would make decisions that would be catastrophic because they don't know what to do.
I should post this video. I might post it as a comment when this live stream ends and goes like to a video. Is not One Nation, Reform in the UK. They they had their council elections and they've had a bunch of councillors elected.
Yep.
And there's footage of them in the like they don't know what they're doing, and they're just admitting like, oh yeah, we didn't realize it was going to be.
I haven't read the Constitution. I need time to read the Constitution. Have you seen that one?
Yeah, and it's just like, this is the thing, is like people get in on hype, or they've never studied a policy, they've never spent any time figuring out how a government works, and they get elected and then they don't know what the hell they're doing. Look, in a way, I prefer that. The worst possible outcome is a competent evil person. An incompetent evil person is preferable, like a Trump.
That's so
because
true.
at least then they can't do too much damage because they don't know how to do the damage.
Yeah.
Or like in Trump's case, he's got so much ADHD. He's already bored of apparently the talk is so bored of the Iran war. He's just trying to get out of it because he's already moved on mentally.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
He's sick of it because it didn't have the effect he wanted, so he's already tired of it.
I mean,
so I'd always prefer incompetent evil, but it's still annoying because it's like I would prefer competent good, but we often don't get that.
No, and it's like, you just remind me of the woman who won for One Nation in the upper house here in South Australia, and she was surprised to learn that she had to travel into North Terrace to Parliament House to do her job. She thought she could do it by Zoom. So there's the degree of ignorance is bloody amazing. Okay, mate, we might finish it there. Thanks very much, though, again, for participating on my show. I really do appreciate it. Any final words?
Just thank you, Tony, for the support, and love talking to you on this stream. And thanks everyone
and please,
for watching.
We'll bring it up
I've
again.
had a consistent viewership on this one because it's during the day, so I know a lot of my people will watch it later. But it's always good to talk, Tony. We'll see what happens with the right wing in Australia. I think the ultimate winner of all of it will be the Labor Party. So good on you, Labor.
Thanks.
Good on you, Albo.
Thanks for that. And remember, it's the Rightist Leftist podcast with Nathan Ogilvie. As you've just witnessed, Nathan's really well informed, extremely articulate, and will probably be the new member for his area come the next federal election, as the groundswell will determine his popularity. And there's a good chance that Nathan will therefore take on the mantle as being the new member and a wonderful member who would be for the Nathan Ogilvie party. So I just want to say thanks everybody for being with me. And finally, I just need to say, please remember to subscribe to my channel. Of course, ring the bell for further notifications. I apologise for not having gone through as many of the comments as I normally would, but I will promise to do that on Thursday when I'm meeting up with our friend Avery. So catch me then. In the meantime, take care. Look after yourselves. See you then.